Welcome to my life.
Mr. Constantine, I saw
I
you.
remember.
And then I saw you at the...
Regular kismet.
I'd like to ask you a few questions, if that'd be okay.
I'm not really in the talking mood right now.
Well, maybe you could just listen then. Please.
Always a catch.
My sister was murdered yesterday.
Sorry to hear.
Thanks. She was a patient at Ravenscar. She jumped off the roof.
Thought you said she was murdered.
Yeah, well, Isabel wouldn't have taken her own life.
Yeah, what kind of mental patient kills herself? That's just crazy.
Look, I've heard your name around the precinct. I know the circles you travel in. The occult, demonology, exorcisms.
Welcome everyone to PlungeComics. This is the art stream, a part of our live streams. Usually we do interviews, colorings, discussions related to indie comics and in mainstream comics culture overall. So today I've got about an hour to kill before construction workers come to put in extractors in the kitchen and in the bathroom, because it's been made a law here in New Zealand now that you got to have that in place at any and every property, especially if it's a rental property like my studio is. So yeah. So I thought, well, before they arrive in about another hour's time, I should get some work done. And that is what we're going to do here today. Hopefully you guys, wherever you are well, and everything in your life is going well. And if it isn't, hopefully I can make it a bit, a bit pleasant in this little moment that we're together here for the next hour or so. Now, as you know, I've got our comic, I should say, that I myself, well, that's big. Myself and Tomas, I've put out manga on Webtoons, which you can check out here. You can pop over and give it a follow, or what have you, read and maybe share it out. I would really appreciate it if you could do that for me, because at the end of the day, the more promotion we get, more eyes we get. This is free, right? So it's not costing anybody anything to just go check it out and read it and stuff. So, and it's about turtles. It's about two young ladies in their 20s going on an overseas journey, and it looks at their life and stuff as traveling overseas. So I'm hoping that by having because it's manga, right? Because it is what it is, that art form, sequential art form, right? And I love sequential art form, right? I love comics, the medium of comics. since I was a child, since I discovered Goofy and Donald Duck, right? So I just love the medium. It's like something in that way, I've never stopped saying I do not love this, because it's the one thing that I just totally enjoy in my life, is that the idea of pictures with with text on it. So today I'm going to be putting this page up. Hold on. Let me just get rid of that. This page up here, and cutting it up for Kickstarter, for Webtoons. So as you guys have seen before, this is how I end up doing this thing. It's a single panels, and then you get a couple panels of text or dialogue. Let me just bring this up so you can see a bit more. And it takes a bit of time, so I'm hoping I can do it in the next hour or so, because it's not dialogue, it's just narrative. So you can see here, the last page we did was this one here, where she's in her bedroom. It starts off with this one, and then sort of goes on along to that 6 pages or so in mobile form, comic form, right? Mobile reader form. However, now I've got these next 6 I got to put up here. And the reason I can say it's 6 is because I went across and figured out that, like, the panel, and this is what I've got it up so far there. So we're on to page. Are we on page 6 today? We just check. Yes, we are on page 6. I was looking at like the actual Webtoons page, so it's page 6 we're going to put out. So yeah, so this is what it looks like. It's 31, 38, whatever out so far, and now we're going to do another 6 on top of that. So grab this, bring it over here, and as you can see, the blank pages. So yeah, so this is what it is. So I've grabbed the art, right? And so I figured out that it's going to be 6, because it's like, okay, I can do one panel with that. I can do one panel with those 2, and then I can do one panel with that, and another panel with that, and then one with that, and then finish up with this turtle here. Now this tells you, like, this part here is a bit more about the turtles itself, right? About the sea turtle, and gives you a bit of like about them. And this is kind of like a crossover conservation, but it's a horror comic, like, seriously, right? It starts off being all mellow and what have you, finding out about these girls, finding about, especially about Amber, who's the main character, and her parents and her relationships, and what changed her and what happened, because in stories you got to have like an inciting incident. In every movie, it's around about like 5 minutes in, and then about 20 minutes in, because that's just what Hollywood has done, right? So they've decided that's how it works, and that's the formula they use. And you can, if you watch as many movies as I have over my lifetime, you'll work out that, like, it's a formula. And that's why when people go to use AI to write their movies or their stories, you can easily tell it's AI written, because it's the formula, it's using the formula, right? That Hollywood uses, and goes, this happens here, this happens here. I actually did that because I want maybe 2 years ago, to figure out. So let's see what this is all about. How does this work? And then I realized, like, all it does is copies everybody else's work and just spits out that formula. And I'm like, hell no, I will never touch this shit. And I'll never, because it was just like, yeah, this is just so formulaic. It's like there's no life and soul in this. It's so hollow. And I guess, if you're not used to understanding how that formula works, you'll just think, oh, it's just another good story or something, But like, just same with comics, right? If you don't know how comics works and what makes comics great, just waiting for this thing to save itself. It's doing this little you know, in Microsoft it has a, you know, that window. Oh, sorry, in Mac it has a beach ball of death. So this one's doing the beach, you know, the saving thing. It's like, because I resized this, it's like not doing it to what I want. So because I've got layers, it's like I should have saved it as like a flat image rather than leaving it as a layer. So it's like it's giving me that. That's kind of annoying. I wonder how long it's going to take. So yeah, so in movies, like, because that's my training, right? I have a bachelor's degree in digital filmmaking. I can tell what's going to happen next, and it's so easy after, you know. And I think a lot of people who are moviegoers, regular moviegoers, understand inherently how that happens now because they've watched so many movies, right? Oh, here, this is what's going to happen here, and this is what's going to happen here, and next thing, and it becomes boring. And this is why I kind of like have turned off to watching, you know, live action movies and stuff, because it just doesn't. The formula gets boring after a while, right? Now, what is with this thing? It's not letting me do what I want. Okay, I'm just going to see if I can cancel this and split it. Wow. What is it about this that's making it so taking so long to save? It's weird. Is it because I'm streaming? No, it's done it. Has it done it? No. Still got the friggin' nope. Wow, this is crazy. Did not expect this. Now it's got the hourglass of death. Come on. Yeah. So, and now it wants to crash. Hold on, I'm gonna let it crash and open up again. Sorry, guys. Apologies for that. Did not expect that. That's my fault. So yeah. Now, you guys are not you guys are not seeing what I'm seeing. There's nothing on my screen, but you guys are probably seeing the, you know, because of this delay there. There it is. So yeah, let me just put the other one on, the Webtoon on. So while this thing starts up, apologies. But yeah, so, and here's the thing, like, moviegoers and comic readers, because this is their medium, you know, like you, you know, it's your medium, right? It's your joy, it's your escapism, it's your place of, you know, your interest, your investment. You know, you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at some point. Like, if you lived over 30 years, you've spent a lot of money, right? On your love for this medium called comics. And so, let me open up the screens I need to open up on here. All right, back to, and so because you've spent that much money and because you've spent that much time on it, you understand how it works. And then when people, you know, start messing with that, you're like, you're messing with the story. You're messing with the origin. We know what this is. And by the way, do go check out Fatal J's stream yesterday, right? The Dark Council. That was a really good stream, guys. If I remember, you know, if I remember, I'll put the link to that live stream under here, because I thought Fatal, you know, and the team there did a great job there. Mark with the C was on there, and I know Mark from like maybe about a year and a half, 2 years ago, from because I'm a subscriber to his channel as well. So I just yeah, it was such a good stream because I haven't talked about movies and all that stuff for a while, and it was so good to like be able to get on there, and you know, I mean, not get on there. I was just in the chat to hear them talk about it. And the same thing, I just stopped talking about because I just thought, like, I'm not interested in sitting. I'm out. You know, I'm not going to be talking about movies, all that, because to be honest, why would I be talking? If I'm not watching something, if I'm not interested in something, why would I be talking about it? Now, where's my Webtoon folder? Oh, there it is. Come on up. Open Sesame. because there's so many pages, it's going to take a while. So, yeah. So I think it for as film and as comic book fans, it's such a ingrained thing in us as human beings, and people who enjoy this medium, who've invested in it. To are you going to show up? To be invested in this, that we are, we inherently understand how this works. We do. We're not dumb people. All right? People think just because you read comics, you're not intelligent, that your brain's like a child's brain and you haven't developed. And that's to their own detriment to understand. Because look, comic fans, right, and gamers are some of the most intelligent people around, if you really, because because this is our pastime, right? It's not our main job. So most of the people who are actually in comics, and I don't mean like creators, I'm talking about people who read, right? Fans. Now, this is what I had a problem with, right? So I'm going to copy, open up this blank page, paste, and then flatten. And sometimes, your brain doesn't do what it wants to the way it should. So let me see if I can, when you're concentrating elsewhere. Now, yeah, that's it. So I go here, select layer, restify. No, it's a folder, right? Merge selected layers. Let's see how we do this. Is it going to give me the entire thing, or is it going to just give me that little piece of thing? Scale. Yeah, there we go. So you can see the entire scale, right? Now it's the entire page. Now I can mess around with it. Now it's not going to take me no, it's not going to crash all the layers down. Crash the entire thing down because it's so many layers, and it's such a huge file, by the way. Because I have my artists work at about 150 time, like 1.5 times a regular page of a comic book, for this reason. So I can enlarge, I can lower the scale without losing too much pixels. You can see that this is it's a bit washy there, but this is how big it is. Okay, so yeah, and I think, look, honestly, to be a fan of comics, to invest in comics, you have to have a day job outside, and you have to have a really good paying job outside, right? Or you spend about a third of your income on comics, a third on food and bills, and probably a fifth on your food and bills, and then whatever you got left off, you can buy, go to a movie or something. Because that was my life anyway for a long time. Now, so we've got that there. Okay, I am gonna just check that my because I'm gonna just copy paste onto every single page now. All right, there we go. So yeah. So copy page onto the next page. Copy paste, copy page. And I think the fact that people think that we're stupid because we read comics, it's their lack of understanding of who we are as as fans, as people. Like, seriously, I've met so many intelligent people in this community who don't just, who aren't just have unemployed, or just have what you call low income earner people, because to buy comics, like I said, and not just comics, but everything else that goes around it, right? The clothing, the merch, the figurines, the games, all that stuff. It's expensive. It's a very expensive hobby. So you have to have a good paying job, or a job that allows you, or your life situation that allows you to be able to invest in that. And so mainstream comics, as you guys know, is finding out what happens when you treat people, right, who have spent and invested this much amount of money in the entertainment, and then you tell them to go, well, we don't need you now. Well, then you find out the hard way what happens when you don't need them, right? You find out that they're the same people that you threw out, or you thought you could throw out, took all their money with them, right? If you don't like my politics, don't read my comics. That attitude, right? And she found out really bad, and I don't want to harp on about her because I just think this, everybody makes this silly comment or statement because they think they're smart. I make that sort of all the time, and then my mates will go and go, hey, yeah, that wasn't intelligent. I'm going, okay, all right, you're right, you're very right. Oh no, it might not make sense now, but like give it time, right? Give it time, and you'll come to realize that, and that's the thing, right? A lot of people don't want to give things time or don't want to wait, so they rush into everything, and they think that this is not the outcome of this. And one thing I've realized in life, and the stupid mistakes I've made in life, that if you rush anything, right, and if you don't look at all sides, you're gonna make mistakes, and those mistakes are gonna cost you big, if you don't fix it fast. Oh, what was that one? And you're probably wondering why isn't he going? I just realized myself I did a mistake there. So this thing here runs out this way and then goes there, but the reader, I have to go fix it. Which page is it? No, I lost my page count. Darn it. Where did you go? Which page is it? There it is. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out which page I was on. I was like, okay, yeah. So basically, I just realized this is going down this way, then it's coming across here. Got it. Yeah. So you're going 1, 2, 3, and then going that way. Because you're supposed to go this way, but because of this way it's layered here, it's got to come down, and I've just made a muck up because I've been going down this way, right? Okay, so back to the start. So this one's fine, right? So we're over here with this one. So I'll grab that here, add to that. Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's just crazy that people have this idea that just because you read comics, you're not intelligent. And so yeah, without harping on that, I want to talk about something else, and this is about Batman, and my first ever argument that I can recall about comics, right? First ever argument I had that or debate, whatever, questioning of superhero genre, whatever, was about Batman. Because I don't read Batman, but I grew up on the Batman TV show, right? So I wasn't a fan of Batman apart from the fact that I watched the TV show, right? The one with no, Batman, growing up. And so for me, that was my Batman, right? The one that like was like running around on TV and with Batgirl and Commissioner Gordon with his red phone and all that. And so, gee, I should cut. Yes, I will cut that. Cool, and I'll save that. So that's one page done. And so when I actually read a comic book was like about 2000s. And I'm talking about Batman comics, right? And it wasn't even a Batman comic that got me into Batman. It was the Nightfall series that was turned into a novel, right? There you go. Hey, KSS. Hey, brother. Hope you're having a great day, mate. And he says, yeah, the 1996 Batman, Adam West Batman was your Batman. Yeah. And so, you know, I didn't really think of it as a comic book. Same with Incredible Hulk when I was watching that. And same with the Wonder Woman that we were watching that my sister was into, you know, because this was in the 80s. So it was repeats, you know. So the idea that there were comic books wasn't a thing to me in my head because, you know, it just wasn't. So, so I didn't actually pick up a comic book of Batman or buy one until around about, as far as I can recall, right? And my memory can be shady because of the many head injuries I've had, right? And by many, I mean over 5, over my lifetime of 52 years, right? So that goes that way. Let me put this here. Give a little turtle there. And so for me, yeah, like I said, I didn't see Batman as a comic book character. I just thought it was a TV character. And so in 2003, when I'm actually no, 2002. Yeah, it would have been about 2003 if I remember right. Yeah, was when I moved to this other side of North New Zealand, which is the South Island, at the bottom of the South Island, which is in Chicago, to do my film degree. And they had a comic shop there, so it meant like I could just walk for 10 minutes and I would be at the comic shop. I was in the city, and it was just streets over, like a couple of blocks over, and I was at the comic shop. And so I was going there regularly, like almost every day, because when we got there, I was looking for work, and I didn't have work for like about maybe 2-3 months, because, you know, they're trying to find out what job I could get and what I was qualified for. And then I ended up like falling back on education. I had back from 86 maybe, 85. So this is 15 odd years of it, previous education I had, which was in a kitchen, learning to be a chef, right? That I was able to get a job as a restaurant, like as a bistro chef, which is what they call. It's just a cook job, right? It's like a counter job, like, you know, fast food restaurant type thing. But it was at a sports bar. And I was there for 3 years, amongst other jobs I was doing, just to, you know, bring in extra cash so we could actually have decent holiday as full-time students, rather than just, you know, just taking the check from the government for being a student, right? The allowance they give you. I was actually working 20 hours a week on top of that and studying full-time, because it's just not on me to be lazy. And so, yeah, so I was working weekends, evenings, and everything I could think of, which kind of pissed off my ex-wife, because it's like, you know, spending enough time with me, like, but you want the good stuff, right? You want your haircut, right? You want to get your $70 haircut, right? You want your, you know, you want all the good life, right? You want to buy your clothes, right? But yeah, so, but so that means you got to sacrifice something. You want a car, right? But anyway, so what happened was that because this comic shop was there, I started going to the comic shop and buying my Marvel comics, right, on a regular basis. But they also had a really good library, and that's where I read the book by Greg Rucka. I can't remember the exact name of it. I might have it. I think I bought a paperback version of it. which I found a couple of years back, and I was like, yeah, I gotta have that in my collection since it was such an important, part of my history. So that's page 2 done. Let's move on, and I've saved that. Yep, page 3, and so now we're coming down to where are you? Give me this. There we go. And we do, with the little turtle. Now we got the swimming turtle and the ocean. Let me see if I can make it a bit smaller. And so I went to the library and picked up this hardcover, right? Nightfall. This is the one with like the earthquake that happens in Gotham City, and so that was my introduction to Batman comics. Batman, other than the what KSS said here, the 1966 Batman, Adam West, and so character, and that book, man, was very pivotal to me actually liking Batman and being a fan, and then spending tens of thousands of dollars on that character just because of that one single book. And I have met Greg Rucka, all right, years after that. I met him about 2007 in person, and I was like, dude, it was such a cool thing that I could come full circle 3 years later and meet him in person, shake his hand, to know that he was such a that his novelization of that was such an important part of my life to understand Batman. As a character other than just the comic books. Yeah, that's it. No Man's Land. Thanks, KSS. Yeah, that's the book. Also, that's the book. You're right. That's the name of the book. It's such a cool freaking, yeah. It's great. I recommend it if you guys want to understand. If you don't read comics, but you read books, novels, read Batman No Man's Land. It's such a great novelization. And then, of course, after that, I went and read Death of Superman, right? And I think that was written by Peter David? I'm not sure, though. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was written by Peter David, but I've met Peter David as well. So, yeah, and I've got him signed stuff. Yeah, so Batman, like so many of the other characters, is actually quite rich. Yeah. And that's what really, the fact that the book was that well written based on those characters made me fall in love with Batman, right? And not because of the comic character, like TV character, because it's just cheesy, fun, parody, whatever you want to call it. And that sort of, wait, what is this? Oh yeah, by the way, I was like, what did I just do here? Because I just I copy pasted the text in, and I was like, it doesn't seem right. So let's go back to this. So where am I? So I have this one on the other page, so I need to put this one. And that one is called Dominant Males. Right, so we go, wait, so I have saved this, right? Yep, so I can close that so I don't get too confused where I am. So this one here is I'm going to the dominant male line, right? Yep. And that is over where? Have I missed it? Nope, there it is. It says it's there. All right, let's find it. Where are you? Ah, it's all the way over here. Okay. Yeah, so I read that book and I read the other one and I go, okay, so it's got the DC thing. Yeah, let's go find out about the comics. Okay, cool. So I go in. I'm just going to set this up. Whoops. This up so I can just copy paste it and I know exactly where I am. And it comes down to what? The next line is the courtship is rough. Right. So let's put the courtship is rough there as well. Wherever that is. Courtship. Isn't it? There. So I go to the comic shop. I go, hey, you got any Batman comics? And so then I'm like, cool. And then I have my first argument about comics that I can remember, right? And it's this. And this is why I'm talking about this is because I saw this post come across my Facebook clip, right? And let me just bring it up so you can see this. It had to do with Punisher and Batman and the difference between the two, right? Let me find it. And I put it up on, here we go. Okay, just get rid of this, bring it up. All right. I cherish my no-killing rule with all my heart, says Batman. As Nightwing, as Red Hood, and as Batgirl's there. I don't like how many men, women, and children need to. I don't care. Sorry, my apologies there. I don't care how many men, women, and children need to die for me to keep it. Now, the other one is this, and this is my favorite. If you kill a killer, the number of killers in the world remains the same. Batman. That's why I kill lots of killers, and there's definitely less. Also, they can't come back and beat my sidekick to death with a crowbar if I needed that sidekick. That is, and that was the argument I had with. I was like, not argument, debate. I was like, why are they letting Joker be around forever, doing all this violence and just totally like mass destruction, right? And so I'm just looking at cases chat here, so I don't all right, so yeah, Dan Jurgens wrote Death of Superman. Well, was it? Yeah, maybe the novel might be it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's like there's human life, and this is the leftist brain, by the way, and my having been a leftist, is that we got to hold on to our principle. Our principle is more important than anything, at the sacrifice of what? Everybody else. And this is where I'm like, I'm in the middle, right? Right. You got to have common sense. You can't just, have one without the other. You got to have compassion for everybody. And that is perfectly what his reasoning was, by the way. The comic shop manager was, right? His reasoning was exactly what KSS just said here. Thank you, KSS. You beat me to the punch. Why does Batman let Joker live? So simple answer, right? And here you're saying, a great villain is hard to find, but DC doesn't. And his answer was DC needs the Joker because of the fact that he is the greatest villain of all time. When it comes to comics, he's the original, he's probably the most original villain, the first. And now I'm on. The courtship is rough. Yes, that's cool. That's there, saved. And that's it. That's what it comes down to, because it's their money maker. Right? It's like, why Harlequin? Why do they push Harlequin so much? Because the girls liked her. Right? The girls liked her so much, so they kept pushing and pushing. But they had to go too far, right? They had to turn her into a lesbian. Their relationship with Poison Ivy had to become a lesbian relationship. Couldn't be a platonic, hey girl, you know, hey girlfriend. It couldn't be that, right? It had to go beyond that. As if girls couldn't have girls as friends. Just like boys can't have boys as friends, right? That's their thing, right? The men can't have men as platonic friendships. Lifelong, battle hardened, whatever you want to call it. For the rough patches, whatever in life, still be friends, right? Oh no, you got to be in each other's bad and in each other's underoos, as Aussies like to say. Our cousins across the ditch, as we call them, right? We just can't be friends, And yeah, as Kesa says, the Joker is iconic as Batman. Yeah, because the two originals. It's like Lex and Superman. But Lex doesn't go out there killing creating mass graves. And so I can have empathy for Lex, because, in a sense, Lex is trying to protect humanity from the alien. What he sees as that. I need to move this. I think I just screwed up. I may have just screwed up. Yeah, this is supposed to have some text on there. Hold on. Oh, I can just delete that page, but I still need that page to be. Hold on. And DC really needs Joker, and and I'm talking about the company needs Joker, so that's fine. This is it's this bit here. So let me find the page. So the page says breeding tortoises. Yeah, that's got to go. So that. And so I had that one in the wrong, extra page there. That should be there. And it's not. But, and there we go. So that goes there. That's fine. And that is there. They're polyamorous, so that's fine. Yeah. So that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be to fix. So, and they need the Joker. They need Harlequin for the girls, and that's what it is. Harlequin is just for the girls, right? And of course, Harlequin wasn't created in the comics. She was created in the animated series. So, Poison Ivy, Wonder Woman, and Harlequin are the trinity of female characters for DC. And basically, Harlequin has become the slutty version of, of all the female characters. And so cosplayers really dig Harlequin, right? And until they put that movie out with the trash bag design, right? So, and that sort of made people go, yeah, we don't want that. We're going to go back to the original red, black, white checkers. So, KSS says, I remember reading an article around the late 2000s, probably around 2008, when I first read the term bromance. I hate the term. It's just brotherly friendship. Why pivot? Exactly. Right. It's just going back to what I was saying about males having friends, right? Male friends. it's when you turn into that, it's like it has that perverted thing. It's like what they did with Harley and two villains, right? Harley and Poison Ivy. It's basically made it into a perverted thing. So it's 2006 that happened. I used to talk about the article there. Yeah, and I think it's a point where the left doesn't want to leave. Leftists, not just leftists, don't want to leave things to be innocent, right? And that's the problem with that. And the thing for me, like, because I write and I'm I've always been honest about that. I write for kids all the way to adults, right? R18 stuff, right? I'm about to be contracted to do a job for adult gaming, visual novel. Again, this will be my second one, right? So it's, because I'm a writer. You tell me what I can write, and I'll tell you what I'm not going to write and what I will not go do, right? And if you're okay with that, then you can hire me, right? I have my standards, or whatever you want to call it. This is how far I will go. This is my line, right? The demarcation line. These are the lines I will not cross. And that is even when I'm writing under a pseudonym, right? I still will not be writing that shit, because that goes over that line, because I don't want that in my head. I don't want the fact that I'm putting it out there, even if it's under some freaking pseudonym. You're still not gonna, it's still it's still me writing. So I'm responsible for that being in the world. And that's why I love the whole idea of like having, general audience, all ages, mature reader, teen plus, young adult, actually understanding what that means. You're able to do a good job in that, and for that audience. Some people don't understand that, and they think they can put whatever they want in that. And for that audience, because you are actually, especially if you're writing for kids, you got to understand what you're doing with that. You got to have it's a lot of responsibility, especially when you're writing for kids, and you're aiming a book for kids, because that's somebody else's child. Now you're responsible for, because a lot of times parents just go, oh, they just see, oh, it's for everybody, all ages. Then they just give it to the kid, and if it's got some trash in there, the parents don't know, and that trash goes in the kid's head, because parents just don't have the time, and that's why a lot of times adults online tend to get into the weeds with the kids, because parents don't know what their kids are doing, or that what they bought their kids, and we're on that page. So the last one we had was their courtship is rough. Oh, poor turtles. The animal kingdom is crazy, man. Right? Animal kingdom is crazy. As I like to say, it's cray cray. Okay, so we're there, and we're going to there, and we're now with this, the male tortoise, right? And it is this one. And then the next one is this one. Okay, so I can grab that. Hopefully I can, I can get all this done before my landlord arrives with the construction workers to start drilling holes in my concrete wall in my kitchen and in my bathroom, because I got to put the extractors on in about 10 minutes or so. But I'm hoping I'll be finished by that, because we're ready goes. But yeah, I think the idea that you can have a mass killer right? In a kid's book is crazy. It's definitely cray cray. You know, if you want to have the 2000s, 2010, 2000 terminology, because you know, you can do all this crazy stuff and get away with it, and the good guy isn't gonna, you know, it's all he's gonna do is take you to prison, hand you over to the cops, you know, and he's just gonna and then you're gonna break out. You are gonna break out, and you're gonna get out there, and that's it. Go do it again and again and again. You can even, you know, that's why it never made sense to me. The whole Batman thing, and that's why I've always loved the Punisher. That's why I showed the second, meme of that with the Punisher, right? Because, you know, he's like, nah. My human nature tells me that if you come and, you know, kill my family, if you kill people, I will put you down. If you're the person who's running around doing that, there's, you know, because to have you continue doing that, and I have the responsibility to stop you doing that, right? I have the power to stop you doing that. Then I should not let you do that. I'll stand in the gap. That's what, you know, going back, he goes, you know, I'll step in the gap. I'm talking about the Bible, right? Because talks about like standing in the gap for others who don't have the power to stand, you know, to stand up for themselves. And so you stand in the gap for other people, right? Because I think it's the last page. Yep, that is the last. Oh well, last bit for this. And, maybe one more. Hold on, could be one more. The tortoise is aggressive. He uses his head. Right, so the male tortoise is aggressive. He uses his head. So we're here. So yeah, there's one more page. So that's that one there. Oh yeah, turtle can come. Okay, so that one's done. The turtle. Wait, sorry, I did the wrong one. Come back here. 41 can go. There's 43, so we go 42. The tortoise can inflict. Yep, so that's there. And then it's the next one is that one. Right. Okay, save that. Close it. So we got one more. Right, so duplicate that page. Save it. Oh, no, it's there. Go. Okay, so the courtship. Yep. Yeah, so that's the last page. Yeah. Back up. I need this. Paste. I'm just waiting for that knock on the door because my landlord is this crazy knock. You know, that whole kind of like the old school. Yeah, so this is going to be there. Let me shrink that down a bit so we can do a bit more with scale. Scale it down a bit. that's exactly what I'm looking at. All across. So it's in the book. Right. There we go. Yeah, so case it says where are we? This one was the one before that. This one before that. Okay. Yeah. So the Joker is an insane villain, but there were many incarnations of him. Same with Batman for that matter, right? Back in the 1930s, Batman carried a gun. Yeah. And if you read early Dick Tracy comics, you'd probably be surprised with how violent and brutal Dick Tracy started off as. Eventually, the stories tamed down because a good villain is hard to come by. But the other thing is that they found that I would say they found that kids were reading comics, right? So they probably moved over towards taming down the stories for the kids. But they found that kids were using it, and parents were using it for kids to get into reading literature and spelling, which is what, for me, Tintin and Asterix, Obelix, Garfield was like, and all that was to be able to get into, because I was very illiterate in Western terms at that age, right? The same age that I'm supposed to be, like about 7 going into 8, because I came from a country that didn't speak English as a first language, right? So for me, I had to take special reading classes and grammar, pronunciation and all that, so I could actually level up from the moment, must have been from like maybe 8 years to all the way to 15 years, I was taking special reading classes, which is what made me, love reading, and also writing and being, that just all those 7 years, whatever, of having special classes, being pulled out of your class, for an hour to go to a special reading class, one-on-one tutorial, right? And the last one that was my teacher was the principal's wife, right? Because she was doing the English class, like special needs classes, and I fell under that. I had special need to learn how to read English and pronounce words properly, and how to, and so up till I was 15. And then at that age, I was reading friggin' It by Stephen King. That was the first book I read by Stephen King, was like It. And then Hellraiser, which is a Hellbound Heart, right? All that. At the age of like 16, 17, I was reading all that. Because also, reading comics and all that, but, reading full-on adult books, books written for adults at the age of 15, 16. Because I would just pick up a book and start reading. And go, that looks interesting, let's read it. The Stand, I read The Stand about the same time. But, so I think that actually has everything completed for us. But I'm going to go across and just check before I upload it. And the other thing I got to do is I got to cut out all the extra bits, like all this other stuff that's hanging out here. So I got to go put the selection tool down here. left side. So now it's only that, and that's going to save and speed up my what have you, RAM, space on my computer, because these are large pages, and if I don't do that, yeah, it's going to take up too much space. Save. And that's, of course, the page number 6, which is what we just cut up. Do not need that. And here we are. Yeah, we got 6 pages of it. Just what I thought I would get. I mean, 6 panels, I guess. Mobile panels, right? Yeah. Hold on. I missed one here. Is the one I missed? Yeah. So yeah. Kesa says, I think in the 1930s and 40s, kids were reading and watching content that was more violent by today's standards. Westerners always had the villains getting killed in the net. Yeah, you have to have that. The good guys have to win. You can't have that whole, it's because of their childhood that we can, this is why they did that. Like, I don't give, I've had terrible childhood, right? But I will not excuse use my childhood, excuse my bad behavior, right? Because as an adult, I'm responsible for my bad behavior as an adult, right? As a child, if I'm behaving badly, you can excuse my bad behavior as a child because I'm a freaking child, right? My mental, my head hasn't matured, right? But around about the age of 18, you got to go. Now you're responsible for your as an adult now, right? If you can go to war and kill people, then you're responsible for your behavior. So yeah, Kesa says things started to change shortly after the war. Yeah, after World War II, it was just it was like, okay, we can't have people being reading violent material. 1950s was when they brought in the comic standards thing, and that sort of like, rather than saying, okay, this is for adults, this is for kids, and all that, they just went, no, everybody has to go, everything has to be up for kids. And so a lot of stuff just, became like, the Tijuana, I'm going to get that right, Tijuana Bible type stuff, right? Or just for kids. And it was just this whole divide. But now I'm so glad now that we're able to label the content that we're creating, for various audiences, and say, for reader base and stuff, and go, this is for this is for them, and so on, and be able to create content for that readership without people, getting up in our face, because really at the end of the day, you should be able to write without having to have the law on your case, unless you're breaking the law in the content that you're creating, right? And there's some content out there that I'm like, oh, I just wouldn't want this out there, but it's not breaking the law, right? So why should I care? Sounds like they're about to be ready to come in. I can hear them outside on the ground floor. Noise travels up, as they say. So, Kesa says, also psychology really became embraced in all entertainment around the late 1940s and 50s. Yeah, I would say that that would have to do with people with the medical field, realizing that a lot of people became damaged out of the war. A lot of men became damaged out of the war, and of course women as well, who were nurses and all that, seeing all that crazy stuff. Like my granddad on my dad's side, right? he was laid up from frostbite in Russia because he was a minesweeper, right? So the English Channel, right? In the winter, it's like frozen, and so he would have his broomstick out there to push the mines that are in the water out of the water, so the submarines and other boats wouldn't hit them and blow up. And so I'm talking about nurses having to deal with that, seeing the pain of that, all the broken limbs and stuff. So yeah, the psychology field just went hardcore, I guess. But then they also went, well, yeah, entertainment now. We can make money out of this field. We can make money out of this field, not just this field. And this is the reason, and we're talking about, I can also go on the fence about how, they're pushing the whole trans thing. It's about money. Honestly, you have got a whole new multi-billion-dollar industry just around the idea of that, right? Of pushing that, all the chemicals, medication, entire life of those people, of the people who have fallen into that trap as children. Their entire life is 70, 80, whatever, how long they live. Their life is now reliant upon the medical, treatments they can get. So you've got that treatment. You got to take that treatment for life, and a lot of them are regretting already. 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road, 2 years down the road. But also, there's a psychology around that where they're too afraid to say anything because, all the vile humans around that who are like going to be jumping down their throat. So you have to have a standard of care and concern for your fellow human being. And coming back to Batman and Joker being allowed to continue killing innocent children, man, woman, elderly, every time Batman puts him back in jail and he breaks out. Makes no sense. That's why I was like, yeah, as much as I like Batman, I do adore Batman, that character. That I always have a problem with, and I've had a problem with that since the moment I started reading the comics, which was about 2003, I should say. 4, 5, 6. Yeah, would it be like mid 2003 with that Greg Rucka what was it? Hold on, just trying to get this up here because it says put it out. Batman No Man's Land hardcover by Greg Rucka. And of course, if you're lucky, you can pick it up, find it around, in secondhand shops and stuff like that. I'm not sure if they reprint it, but you can, if you keep an eye out, you'll be able to find it in, hardcover or in paperback for the novel. It's pretty big, and it's really good. I think it's like maybe around 700, 500 pages or something like that. It's thick as it's what? Just trying to size up. It's about 5 centimeters thick, the book. Yeah. It's pretty good. And also, I recommend the other one. I think it was, which is the other one I read at the same time. And it's like The Death of Superman novelization. And Casey's put that up as well. Thank you. Casey's, I think Dan Jurgens, who wrote the novelization of that. Those two books were pivotal in me starting to buy DC comics because I didn't really buy. I was a Marvel dude for decades. Yeah, so this is what we're talking about. I was just saying about the dude who screwed up, comics here in general. Dr. Wortham famously testified before Congress to talk about violence in comics, which led to the Comic Code Authority. The senator who championed him was probably only one using it to go after the mafia. Yeah. Just like right now, right? They're using the internet to censor people and freedom of speech online. That's it. They're using that and they're using the idea of protecting the kids. They always do that. So the idea here was to go after the mafia, but we'll use the comics code as the road, right? As a vehicle, sorry, to get to the mafia. Same thing. We want to control the internet, so we'll use the vehicle of protecting kids, you know, and families to censor the internet and to censor people. Like I gotta hand over my ID, you know, my driver's license. I don't have one, by the way. The cops took it off me because I only was on learners and it was expired, and I don't drive, so I don't need a driver's license. And so I got to find that, or if I don't have that, I got to give you my passport, because that's the other legitimate ID I have, right? To an online website. And yeah, so that was crazy. So, that is crazy, I should say, because like, why would I have to give you my government ID to be able to use the internet? That is, you know, that's just, and then, so the mafia was using comics to launder money. Mafia uses everything to launder money. They use, I mean, like, they were using Hollywood to do that. So the thing is that if you're a criminal, you're going to use anything, right? To use, to launder money, to make money. You're a criminal. There's no hold bar. But the other thing here is, like, I talk about that. The Chinese used the Hong Kong to launder money, right? And now they're still doing that, and they're using actors, right? Since we're talking about, like, you know, Hollywood, they're using actors to fake launder money and to steal from people and to propagandize, because they had like movies that was like, oh, we made $1 billion, and they said, yeah, so they could say, oh, we hand over money to people, and then like it wasn't. They didn't do $1 million on that. It turned out it was only a couple hundred, 100 million. It wasn't $1 billion, I should say. It was a couple hundred million, right? And the weird thing is, some Hollywood companies, studios are getting caught up in that now. Again, they never learn, right? It's best to like keep if you're out here like creating art and stuff, it's best to have a tight control over your team. And I don't mean like control like in, you know, censorship and all that. I mean like control over who's doing what did, you know, in the sense of where your money's coming from, who's investing, because you don't know who people's backgrounds and stuff. So you got to keep a tight control. And also you don't know if they're going to do damage to you, right? Later, like they're finding out, you know, a lot with some of this, you know, stuff that's coming in with the CCP. And they actually found, talking about that, they actually just found another spy in Australia, right? In politics, a Chinese spy. So yeah, it's cray. I don't even know why I can't, you know, brought that word back up today, but yeah, it's crazy. So now I'm going to just do a quick run through, make sure everything here is readable. I need to read it according to that page. So let's go big, not that big. All right. Here we are. And I just realized I did lose a page. Darn it. I think it had to do with the text. Yeah, it had to do with the text. So that's fine there. But I messed up because it's supposed to be. Oh, hold on. The only way I'm going to find out is by opening the friggin' original page, right? Right, it's like, no, that's right. Darn it. I keep confusing myself. This is like the problem, like going back and forth between the two things. It's like, okay, I think I got it wrong. I got it right. So the breeding tortoises are aggressive. Yes, there it is. Breeding tortoises are aggressive. Tortoises reach sexual maturity between 10 and 20. Yep. And then blah, blah, blah. And the next one is dominant. Yep. Yeah. And then where are we? There. Yep. Culture was rough, aggressive. Where was it? Yep. 1, 2. He uses his head. Yep. And neck. Tortoise can inflict. Yep. And a fertile mother does that. And then courtship occurs. Perfect. Yep. Great. That's it. Now to export. Now, hold on. I need to get this thing isn't. No, it's not. There's too much text on this friggin' screen in front of me on the chat screen on my stream out here. So yeah, so here we go. So the true. So this is in regards to the the criminals use whatever they can to make money. So the mafia used everything to launder money, and in turn there was so much great entertainment. I'm not advocating on the mafia, but we couldn't have great characters without them, which is weird. Yeah. They were funding a lot of crazy stuff because they needed to get that money, their drug money or alcohol money out there and back into banks, into their accounts. So yeah, the more the better the story, the more people would sit in the would be in the audience in the seats, which meant that it made more money, which meant that they could get more return on it. Exactly. The mafia was the comics what Joker was to Batman. Yeah. All right, so let me transfer. Let me cut up this. No, I've cut it up. I've done that stage. Export as a multi. Wait, hold on. I don't know how many pages I'm doing. So page number 38 to page number 43. Right. So basically from here to here, it's 6 pages, right? Yeah. So export as multiple pages, batch export. 38. Look at this little tab that's come up. 43. Am I in the right place? Make sure. No, my folder is not where it should be, so find it. Webtoons folder. Lost it again. See it. It's definitely that one. I need to put like change the color of the icon for the folder so it stands out. Oh, okay. It goes all the way back to the freaking map. Okay. Yep. Got it. Select it. Folder. Export at 60 and 100%. Yeah, so the ratio is 60 I found out. But the quality is 100% for the JPEGs when I do this. It can't. It works. It works well for. Let's get rid of that. Let's bring up the Webtoon page. Copy. Oops. Let's bring that up. Copy that. Copy out. Go to dashboard. Add episode. Oh yeah, you'll notice here, like it says young adult, right? So this is weird because like I wouldn't class this as young adult, but I put it like that's what this thing classed me. It's like I put a horror. Can you see that? It's horror and slice of life, and they put it as young adult. So for me, young adult's like M15, right? I don't know what Webtoon's class is young adult because I don't want to get myself into trouble, but I've horror. This is freaking horror, right? So right from the start, I've always said this is horror, which means that I don't know, you know, I won't spoil it, but it does get crazy, you know. I'm talking like, you know, yeah. I don't want to spoil it because it's, yeah. There's certain things I can't really, you know, I don't really want to say because it'll just ruin the story for everybody. Oh yeah, and I just realized I also got to create a thumbnail, right? So let's select, while this is selecting this, I can, and 43, 40, 38 to that. And while it's doing that, I will go and create the tab or the thumbnails, I should say. And then, of course, optimize 6 images is fit within the maximum image dimensions, which means now it's that many, right? Isn't that crazy? My 6, you know, panels now is about 12, so it's doubled up for your screen. Okay, so I got to go create this now. So look, give me a moment here. And while I'm doing that, I'm trying to get this freaking thing to move with cases comments here. Went too far up. To the last one. No, there's one more. Here we go. This thing's annoying me, man. I'm trying not to be like a guy who complains about StreamYards anymore, but seriously, it is not helpful at this moment. I lost my comments. Hide, bring me back. All right, let me see what I can do this. So, yeah. Where is it? Darn it. these, yeah, I'm trying not to complain. I am not going to complain about StreamYards, as expensive as it is right now. So here we go. So I started reading comics in the 1980s when I was a kid. Same, man. So yeah, you're 5 years younger than me. So I'm 47 KSSAs, and I'll bring it up in a minute. But like I'm trying to read it so before, so it does. This is the only way I can do it without having to put it up on. The first thing I noticed and appreciated is I never felt like comics were talking down to me like cartoons tended to. Exactly. That's why everybody goes back to that time, and even 1990s, because comics never talked down to me, right? I never felt that. The same as you guys. I never felt like when I was reading comics, and why I was reading comics was because it never talked down to me. Took me as a serious reader. Never looked at me as a child, even though I wasn't. Right, I was young adult, 20s. 18, 16, 17. You know, at that time in the 90s, late 80s. But even as a preteen, I don't feel like it was taking me, treating me like a child. And I think now it does. It seriously does now, right? And that's what's. So when I'm writing, this is why I'm saying like I write for all ages, because when I'm writing, I take my characters as seriously as I would expect the reader to take them. I don't treat them as like superfluous, right? As like just entertainment. I don't treat my characters as entertainment. I treat them as actual human beings that I'm telling the stories about. So when I'm talking about these turtles, they exist in my head. They exist in the real world, right? Because and in this case, because I'm talking about the story pertaining to the story, they exist. They are reality, that kind of thing. That they're important. Their life has meaning. These characters, when I write about them, they actually mean something. They're just, of course, they're entertainment value, but they actually, for me, are real people, right? Not that I'm going to treat them like real people, but like they exist in my head as real people with a voice, or with their, with their own sort of. Actually, let's leave that on. I'll just bring another thing in, and what I wanted to bring in before we start is what the I don't want to put this funny face in. I was just thinking like maybe I could put it. Actually, this might be better. So let's get rid of that. Let's grab his face, or her face. I think it might be a her. Get rid of that. I need to save it because it's going to say. And because for me, they exist as real people, and I treat them as real people in my head, right? And on paper, I can basically, I can write them in a way that is real to me, so that when you read them, then they feel and they seem like actual characters that come to life. It's like when I was reading Genosha, and when I was reading Punisher, or I was reading X-Men comics and Mutant comics, it was like they were my friends, right? They mattered because they were like every week I could read about them, and because I was picking up comics every week, and whatever title was coming out that week, I could see them as real characters, real people that was living down the neighborhood. Even though they had this, powers and all this stuff, were heavy mutants, but they were like my little friends that I could hang out with for that time being, that I hung out with, read their stories. Now it doesn't have that same sort of feel because it's just entertainment, right? That's the only value you get out of them is like the entertainment value, and that's why they're not long. They're just like little 5-minute reads now. Do that 100%. You should be buying it 100%. Yeah, as a writer, your characters are part of you. They're kind of like fictional children. Exactly. And you're the fictional god of their fictional trials and tribulations. Exactly. And you gotta take it seriously, right? Each character that you, each side character that you might decide to use as a plot driver, right? Like, oh, you got to kill them off, or something, or they get injured. That means something, right? You don't just go, oh, yeah, we're going to kill off 100 people, and that means nothing, right? And this is what I always had a problem with Marvel Comics, or comics in general, in the mainstream, with the superhero comics. It's like, oh, 1,000 people just died. Next one, next story arc. It's like, well, are you not concerned that I thought you were a hero? So you're going to move on to the next, like, okay, you're not even thinking about, like, if that freaking big tanker explodes into that building, you're not going to try to stop that tanker from running, getting exploded in that building. Oh, it's nighttime. Well, don't you think that there might be some cleaners in there? Yeah, this is why I just don't like ancient comics in the sense of like DC and Marvel, because they don't think about real human, fictional characters, and there's, janitors, cleaners, whatever have you, but they will, that one time that Superman saves that child, right? As a tanker or train explodes and all the pieces of that train goes flying into all these buildings and everybody around them. Yeah, that's the great big deal. It's what, so yeah, I like the idea that, I always saw myself when I'm creating as a fictional god creating fictional characters with trials and tribulations, and that's the perfect way, of seeing that. It's like you are ruling over their world, and you don't want to be this monarch, dictator, or maniac who I can't even say the word right. Maniac being, belligerent person ruling over their lives and killing off whoever you want to kill off, and not worried about how that's going to affect the people that that are part of their family, their extended, friends, their work staff members, whatever, workplace friends and stuff. And this is why I love manga for this reason, because those guys take their work seriously. And of course there's some there's comedy and all that stuff involved, but they take their stories very seriously. Like ReZero, dude, the character ReZero is the ultimate dude who cries over every person that gets harmed, but in a very extensive, over, I don't know, impactful way, right? And so, his soul aches over kind of thing, over every person that's harmed in his universe of sphere of friends, and he's forever trying to make sure that isn't happening. And it can be jarring, if you're watching the same thing played out over and over again in every single episode. But the writer does it in such a way that it's entertaining as well as informative, and the story is being driven and exposes each new thing, right? Even like I mentioned, the whole thing about Dunedin, right? And how they entertain you. It's a comedy, it's got aliens, demons, ghosts, and all this. However, the stories they tell is just so freaking deep and emotionally heart-wrenching, right? That you are emotionally tied to that you go away thinking about it later. However, you don't do that about comics anymore. Back when we, as Cassius was saying, in the 80s and 90s, none of my friends read comics, so I couldn't really talk to them about comics, right? But those things all day long would play out in my head. Like this happened, and that I was like, man, and even now the Genosha train is always in my head, right? That Wolverine's there with Shadowcat, and on top of that train, and they're trying to get away with this. I think, it's been a while since I read it, but with the mutant full of trains, or trying to stop the train from going into Genosha, and it's kind of like a metaphor for the for the Jews going to the concentration camp, right? World War II. Whether they mean to do it that way or not, but it's basically kind of that's the story, theme of the plot. And so they're fighting so hard to not have that happen. And I can't remember if it's they did on the trains, the part where they're trying to get away or whichever. But it's such an important thing that sticks in my head since that time. 30 years ago was like, what are we, 2025? So it's about 20 years, 30 years ago now. And it's still in my head. So Kesa says, Stanley wrote, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? And he goes, imagine if writers apply that to their characters. That's why, for me, every single character that I'm writing is as important as every other book title that I'm working on. Right? And as you guys know, that I'm not just writing. Let me just bring up this banner. I think I'm gonna. Is it a banner? No, it's under the medium. That I'm not just writing. Are you there? Hang on. It's basically, hold on, this is getting me messed up. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you guys heard that, but so on the top left, that's the manga I was just we're just flipping up for Webtoons there, and then you've right next to that in the middle top there you got Templeton, which is an R18, right? Horror about demons and angels, right, and humans. And all sorts of stuff that the criminal elements or the normal slice of life story, but it's a 6-issue series. I think the last 2 pages is being inked now for the first issue. We already started the penciling issue 2, but I'm coloring it at the moment. So next to that is that the green character, that INCREDI-GIRL. That's an all ages character, book, right? And then you got Howler, which is I would say like a young adult. 15 plus, might even be 13 plus, but because I haven't tried to be too bloody or aggressive with it in the story. And then of course you got Robot Nation, which is a Sci-Fi series, Sci-Fi standalone 44-page comic book with 2 stories, right? And then of course we've got a young adult, teen plus, I guess, Fantastical Romy, right? Which has been colored. Issue 1's been colored now. Issue 2 we already started. Probably about 2/3 of the pencils are done, and so each one of those titles are no lesser than any other title. Each one of those characters is no lesser than any other characters that I'm writing in the other books. They all matter to me, right? I might not be working on that one right now, that title right now, but they still are in my head. I'm trying to work out, where I'm taking them or whatever. Whereas for the Tortoise, right, the top left, that I've already written the first 3 issues of that. I've written all 6 issues of Templeton. I've written all 6 issues of INCREDI-GIRL. I've written, I think, issue 2 of Howler, which is being colored now, but issue 1's been colored now, but issue 2 is being drawn now. And of course, Robot Nation's finished. All the colors are done. I'm just having to sort out all the 3 translations in their own issues, because it's in English, Portuguese, and Spanish, right? All 4 issues of Fantastical Romy is written, right? So, and while that's being done, I'm working on Steve's book, right? Helping him get his book up and running, as I'm the production manager, editor on that, right? And he's working on issue 2 of, I think he's already finished issue 2 of writing that, and issue 1's just being illustrated now. We just had page 7 or 8. Yeah, page 7 just get sent in with the pencils. So, and while I'm writing, while I'll do that, I've got Pins, right, which is a horror comic based around fashion and modeling that I'm working on, which I'm trying to set up as a 4-issue comic book. I've finished I've written issue 1, and I'm writing issue 2 now. And it's, it's going to be, probably might be it's going to be a brutal horror comic, right? And so it's just, you gotta, yeah. Kessa says, you mean you don't come up with a crowdfund and sit on it for half a decade? Nah, dude. I actually try to get the books finished before I get out there. So I had a 5-hour meeting last week, and I had to tell my CEO for publishing company that, hey, where I am with stuff. And I'm saying, yeah, this is where we at. So when we release our comics, when we actually put our comics out, apart from INCREDI-GIRL, which is the top, the big cover on the top right there. Apart from that, everything else that we write is coming to the Plunge, Plunge NZ website on Kickstarter, right? So let me just grab that link here. So if you can follow that, I'll really appreciate you guys if you can follow this. It will really help me out, because we're going to put all 6 comics out at the same time, right? Which means that you will save $100, if not more, if you on your freight cost by backing all these books at the same time, right? And they will all be finished when you go to back it. So it takes, my editors are like, man, Aru, why don't you already release them? I was like, one at a time. Like, well, it'll be better for the backers to get all 6 books at the same time than have to pay 20, 25, whatever. New Zealand's about $30, right? To get them sent to you. So isn't it better to get 6 books at $5 freight each than 6 books at a time, or 1 book at a time, over 6 times? That's if you're going to back me, right? Backers at $20 at a time. So that's 6 times 20. It's $120 freight cost. So why not just pay the one-off freight costs and buy all 6 books, support all 6 books, and spend that freight money on getting the other books instead? Get physical. So you get product, right? You get product, but without having to pay 6 times, 5 extra freight costs. But yeah, I think because I was in retail, right? I spent most of my life in retail. So, 15 years or more, maybe 17 years of my life in retail. So I know that, people having to pay for delivery is the last thing they want to think about. And they don't want to pay extra for delivery, because why not get it all at the same time and save on that, save yourself $100 and give that to the creators of the books, right? The people who instead of giving it to freight companies. We worked out that it's like you can put about 7 or 8 books into a Gemini, depending on how thick the Gemini is, right? And so by doing that, you'll actually, and I think I'm the only one who came up with this idea. Maybe some other people have, I don't know, but I think I'm the only one who has spent a year thinking about this in a way to go, well, let's save the backers money. Let's get that money to us and then provide a good product, finished product to the backers, right? So Kessa says, when you go live, reach out to Bancraft. Oh, yeah, I know Bancraft. I actually support his channel. I'm actually a subscriber, a member of his channel. And K-Pop Junkie. Never heard of K-Pop Junkie, so thank you for that. There are others too, but they're great for promotional. And of course, they're great. Alasmet is awesome. I had Alasmet on, and I've been on his channel. He's awesome. The Duckman is good. Quack. So yeah. So I don't want to be out here saying, well, here's a product, and you may or may not get it. I want to be out here. Here's a product that's finished, and not only that, here's 6 of them, and you only get to pay a one-off freight cost. But if you go over a certain number, hey, it might cost you $5 more because the freight's going to be a bit more, right? But at least you get 6 products. And here's the thing: if we put up 6 products, you can buy another extra 2 and not have to pay extra freight on that, because we can handle. I guess, like I said, with a Gemini, you can handle 6 or 7 books in the same package at the same cost. Because they go on the thickness. It's only like when it gets to a bigger size and they go on the weight. Like I remember, I did it cost me $50 for a box of. Yeah, I was gonna say something, but I won't because everybody else says it to him. But it's a nut, right? It's a nut that everybody calls it. But hey, my head kind of looks like that. But I'm the Monkey King, so yeah, I am the Monkey King of Zeolandia. So I don't take myself seriously. So I'm glad that Alasmat is awesome. He doesn't take himself seriously. I think too many people out here on the YouTubes are taking themselves seriously. One of the craziest things I've heard this week, right, is that that dude, some angry gamers, and I was thinking about that. Like for a decade, he's been lying about who he is, and he has about 3.6 million subscribers, right, which means he makes $1,000 US a day. And he says that YouTube isn't his main job, but he spends 6 hours on YouTube, right? Or creating stuff like that every day on YouTube. So if I was making $1,000 on YouTube, I'd be that'll be that, but I'll still be creating comics because that's my passion, right? And then I'll be using that money from the YouTube to fund my comics, to produce more comics. Because I have about 100 other stories that's just sitting there, or partially finished or finished, that I would like to get artists on to do, but you can't do that unless you have the money to pay the artist, right? So yeah, but the dude basically pretended for a decade that he was some engineer, right? Yeah. Yeah, if I was, Keza says, if I was making $30K a month, that would be my job. Exactly. I mean, if you're making $1,000 US, which is right about $1,700 in New Zealand, by the way, guys, that's a lot of friggin' money, right? A week, just by having a YouTube channel. I'll be like, I'm a YouTuber, man. That's what Evan is right now, right? He makes whatever he makes. He's a YouTuber. He's not a comic creator anymore. So his comic creating is his part-time job, right? Ethan Bennett. About when I say Evan, right? Because he's already said it. There's a clip of him actually saying that YouTube is my job. I'm a So pretending to be anything else is not, But for me, at the moment, YouTube isn't my job. This is just what I do to promote our comics, to talk to you guys, to tell you about our artists, to interview artists, to interview other creators, because this is the community, as the Duckman Elizabeth like to say. But it's a fun place to be, and it's a community that you can hang out with. Because like I don't have that many friends on purpose, because I don't trust that many people on purpose, because there's only 2 people that I actually can trust in my life outside of my family. That's it. 2 male friends. And that way you know who who's got your back and who hasn't. It's very easy to know when there's only 2 people who tell things to. And also, it goes the other way too. That those 2 people know that they can trust me 100% as well, because I'm the only one that knows whatever, right? That they talk to. I mean, they might have their own friends outside of me, but as far as it concerns with me, two people in real life is enough, because I'm ultra busy, right? Like I said, I've not just taken off another project. So I'm working on probably about 10 projects at the moment, give or take, and that's not BS, because I just wrote an 80-page comic. That's one project I done. I just talked to the friggin' publisher about that the other day in the meeting, and then of course, this other game creator came up and said, "Hey, well, would you be interested in being a co-writer on a story for me for my game?" I go, "Okay, what's it about?" And we had Discord meeting, whatever, back and forth, and then so that's one project, and then I had Steve's project, right, with his. Let me export this while we're just still chatting, so I can load it up on that page. Finish off that page. Number 6. Let's get that in there. 5. Label number 6. And so you got the 6 projects that I just put up there, and then you've got Steve's project. That's 7. Then that other project I had to work on called ATA, which is an 80-page book, standalone crossover. Wait, what did I just do? I already exported it. Ha! Oh, let's get this. Let me get this up here. Excuse me. Put that back up. Back up to Webtoons. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think okay, so I've got the 6 that's there. Then I've got Valley of the Kings. That's 7. Right? ATA is 8. Then I'm doing pins, which is 9. Where's the 10 from? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not 10. It's too big. Darn it. Okay. Make it smaller. Right. Export it smaller. 6. Oops. Yes. That was replace that. Let's go to 50%. Actually, no, maybe 60 was the right for this one. All right, let's load up again. Turtle. Yep, it's loaded. There it is. So we can go live. Oh, let's put a little creator's note on there. A little info about turtles. And publish. Command immediately. Publish. Return. Yeah, of course. All right, let's see. And there it is. Chapter 6 is up. Well, Oh, here's the thing, right? So if you guys one of the things about Webtoons recently has been sorry, before I go into the Webtoons thing. So KSS says here, I think you can do both, be a YouTuber and a comic creator. But I don't think many who claim to be both are being honest. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? don't like whatever's making you your most income. That's your that's your main job, basically. Um, and if you are successful on YouTube, and there are many people who are, and there are many people that aren't, you can, you decide what you want, but don't be out here lying about it, you know. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people on YouTube, is they are faking who they are, and when they get caught out, they make excuses. And the funny thing is that the Indian guy, right? He's a migrant like me, right? He's living in Canada, so he's not actually, I guess, a native. His family isn't a native born, and I mean by native, I mean like, they've been there for decades and generational, right? Like me, I'm not a native. I wasn't born in New Zealand, but my brother and sister and my nephews are born in New Zealand, right? So they're natives. I'm not. Oh, this one, yeah, definitely this one, because for me, this is our, this is the one that I like to have promoted, because this is the one which allows other creators to get their interviews on, right? Which is PlungeComics, because I really am passionate about, because as you know, I love talking to other creators, other artists and writers. That's why I have them on, right? Because I just enjoy talking to other creative people, because I think, and I like talking to them, because I want people to see that's not a magic thing that we do, right? This is like, creating comics isn't magic. We work hard on this, right? We work. I mean, like for me, like when I talk to my artists, we are creating art. That art doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from ourselves, from the skills we've learned, from the time we spent doodling in class while the teacher's teaching, or while we were sitting, while in the field smoking, then having a notepad out, or we're walking down the street thinking in our heads like how this character will do that, and then when we go to sit down to write, it all comes out at that point, and then we don't have anything else, and then we stop, and then we go away for a couple of days. So it's then we come back again, and all these things are in our heads, like that's why I always say, like, most of the time the stories I have is either something I've dreamt up, or had at the end of it, like there's been like the only little bit I can remember, becomes a dream, right? I mean, sorry, becomes something that I remembered at the end of the dream, and I thought, okay, maybe I could use this as a story. Which this here was, I put up, you can see there the fantastical roaming thing with the dragon there, right? Bottom right cover. That was from a dream. That all started because at the end of, like, when I was in a dream, I saw these feet running in a forest, and I'm like, why is it that feet running? And I'm like, what's chasing them? And I was like, oh, woke up and thought, that'll make it great. Maybe I can try to do that as a story, And the same thing happened with the freaking turtle thing up at the top here, right? Which we were just working on, right? With this thing. That came from a dream. A little girl talking to her dad and mom as she's looking at turtles on a beach. And by the way, the only place I've ever seen a turtle is actually at a zoo, right? Or maybe at a pet shop. And I've never owned one, but I thought that'll make it great. Let's think about this character, make this little girl on the beach, and then use that and like really think about, well, what is her parents doing there on the beach? Who are her parents? What makes her tick, and so on. And then so I took her all the way from just being this little girl on the beach wanting a turtle and looking at turtles popping out of their freaking eggs, whatever, to all the way to school. Then took her all the way to an overseas trip, right? And now we have a comic book, a manga even, right? And so it's a lot of times inspiration comes from wherever, and it's not magic. It's just because I think it's just being open to ideas that you may have. Like issue 2 of the pins that I've been writing, I didn't have issue 2 outline done, and then I know where the book's going, but I didn't have an idea for the issue 2, and I was just I think I was going to read a book, Dexter, and then a sentence popped in my head. It's like, and I talked about this previously, but since we're talking about like ideas and stuff, it was like I couldn't get this freaking sentence out of my head, which was like, I used to have a brother once, right? I have 2 brothers. They live, they have children, they have marriages, right? So it's not like I don't have a brother once, But so it wasn't nothing to do with me. So I was like, okay, so what do I do with this? I used to have a brother once, and I know the voice is basically a girl saying it, a woman saying it. So the fact that there's a woman saying it, how do I tie this into a story? Oh, I have pins, right? PINS, right? So I've been writing that horror story. So why don't I do that as part of that story? And let's work on that. And that meant that I had to figure out how and why and what happened to this brother, right? Who's this brother? How do I work out? And this is where that whole idea of like storytelling comes in. How do you skill your way through this so it's entertaining and interesting for a reader, and even not just the reader, but it's entertaining for the characters who are hearing the story to find it interesting. Because the whole idea about this is to make it interesting. So if the person's hearing it in the story, like if I say I'm the character, right? I'm the girl, and I'm telling the story to this other girl, and I'm telling how I used to have a brother once, and if that story is boring, then you as a reader are going to find that boring. If that listener, that other girl is listening to this, is bored. So I got to go, well, how do I make it entertaining? How to make it interesting for both the fictional listener in the book to the real life physical reader of the comic and who's reading the story. So there's like 3 steps, right? Not only is she telling the story, but there's a listener and then also the reader. So this is something I think a lot of modern writers, especially mainstream, don't consider. And you got to, like, a lot of times when I go to write, I'm always working through it over and over and over and over again until I'm happy with it. Like I said to my team, and there's like 6 different creators on these 6 different titles, right? 7 different titles. Is that like, it's not over. The story isn't written until it's ready to go to print, right? Up till then, I'm checking everything, right? I'm checking everything. Does the story flow? Is there anything wrong? Is a sentence, okay, I should use a different word right now. Doesn't work. That word doesn't fit the freaking, not only does the word not fit that speech bubble, because I like to have everything kind of like on the speech bubble really, let me just show you what I mean. That I'm very particular about even the speech bubbles, right? So that's how I guess OCD I am when it comes to this sort of stuff. When it comes to comics, that I'm actually, here we go. So even OCD over the speech bubbles. So you can see here it's always rounded, right? And even if it's oval, it has to fit center and has to think. So if this word here, right, doesn't fit in there, I need to take it over to the next one. However, I could change that, right? Have the same meaning of the word, but change the spelling right? Have a different word for the same meaning, so it'll fit in my friggin' speech bubble. And I've done that many times. I'm like, damn it, I need to look up the meaning of another word for that because it's not fitting in that stupid speech bubble, right? And so yeah, it always has to have a particular thing, like even here, right? So I want it square. I needed to have it square, so it's not like one whole word sticking out here, right? And there's all this blank space. So here is fine. I don't mind this, but not over here so much, right? So even here, you could like move that. And so here, but then that will mess up this. So I'm very particular about how I want my page to look, how the speech bubble to look, it's gotta look, it has to fill out and look, like I'm saying, like I said before, I tell my artists we are creating art together, right? I tell my team we are creating art together, not this is my story, this is how it's going to be written, this is how you're going to draw it. No, we're a team. Otherwise, I'll just be writing a novel, right? If I want to be a team of one, I'd be writing a novel, and I've done that, right? So it's just you can write a story or you can write a comic book. You decide if you want to create art and you're working with a team, then you're creating it together. So I think a lot of people, even though sometimes I find letterers can ruin a comic book, right? Just by their not understanding that they're creating art. So yeah, so as we finish off here, I think I can hear, I thought I could hear them, but I think they're still working outside. So I know I've told them that they have 2 hours, or they had 3 hours, right? Because I got a meeting at 1 o'clock with America. So, but on video chat, so they have to be finished in 2 hours time because it's 11 now. So, they got to get done. So I'm going to go out there and tell them to come up and start working, even if they're finished the other one. Because there's a whole block of flats and stuff, and they got to do every one. I'm so do mine first then now. So Kesa says here, as we were talking about, inspiration. Jekyll and Hyde came to Robert Louis Stevenson in a dream. Terminator came to James Cameron in a dream as well. However, with the Cameron story, I think that's from the Twilight Zone, right? So, and he might have seen it as a kid, the black and white episode where there's a robot that comes from the future to the past, and he's always been questioned about that. And here's the thing about inspiration: he might never have had watched that or anything. The way there's a thing about us as human beings, because we're all connected somehow with it through our DNA, right? I got great genes, like they say, we all have, we are all somehow as a human, what is it called, beings, whatever you want, that we are, it's Outer Limits, right? Yeah. I'm actually watching, what am I watching right now? Well, I have been, I just stopped for the time being, and I'm watching a whole bunch of anime. But I was watching, where are you? Have a list. Is it the Outer Limits or is it there's something that's from the past that I love classic sci-fi. It must be Outer Limits season 1 or alphabetical. See, where is it? Yeah, the Outer Limits. So I'm watching Outer Limits 1963 season 1 at the moment. Where am I? What episode am I up to? I'm up to episode 18. Yeah. Yeah. So but Cameron said he had a fever dream of a robot skeleton coming after him, that wasn't really in the outer limits. No, that's what I mean. So like, but you know, Harlan Ellison famously sued and won against Cameron. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, what's like for us as human beings, like because of our genetics or DNA, I have this idea that like we're all down. You know, we have the synergy as human beings, and so there is nothing new under the sun. You know, just because I've had an idea doesn't mean someone else has it at the same time somewhere else around the world, somewhere in some village, you know, out what we call the Wop Wops in New Zealand, you know, way in the backwaters of some country that we've never ever been to, right? There's a person there who's had this, you know, so, you know, I guess fever dream, right? But the fact is that we got out in print first, you know, and whatever has been put out in print first, it becomes kind of like the mainstay. However, if our idea came from somewhere else, inspiration came from somewhere else, we can't say, well, it didn't, if we know we did. And that's a part of honesty, right? And so as I finish off here, yeah, that's it. Like shared memories. Yeah, I think they said every society had a form of a dragon. Exactly, right? And that's the thing. Every culture has had understands the world being underwater, and they even have legends about it, right? The Noah I'm talking about, right? So everybody has an Adam and Eve first origin story that's all similar to what we hear in the Bible, right? I know the Fijians have it because I heard my auntie, who has passed away, I think about at the age of 80 or 70, a couple of years ago, she told me it. My native Fijian auntie, indigenous, not like me, who's an Indian from Fiji, but she's actually native, right? So she was telling me the origins of Fiji story, which I've forgotten, and which kind of annoys me because I wrote it down somewhere and then I forgot it. So yeah, so we do have a shared memory because it's in our DNA. I mean, like I say, we only use 10% of our brains, right? Yeah, a great flood, that first man and woman, because every culture's, you know, it's got to work out where they came from, but the Great Flood is in every culture. It just depends how long, you know, like Maoris came from another country, Hawaii key, they say Java. Actually, it's Java, but they say Hawaii. So it's Java is like in Indonesia, right? Around that line. So they came along that line from Asia, right? And not the other side, which is like, you know, the Americas. However, there are natives that came from Americas, South America, into the Pacific, right? Which is why we have so many different varieties of Platos in New Zealand. And so, yeah, the human traveled all around from this, you know, from the cradle, from the original cradle of like, you know, Middle East, North Africa, somewhere like that. Okay, I think that's us for today. Thank you so much, guys, for listening, and thank you so much, KSS, for hanging out, man. That was really cool, helping me out with information. That's just, yeah. Cheers, bro. Appreciate it. All right, so this is your Monkey King signing off. Be loyal, and we'll catch you on the next one. And may you have an amazing day. It was raining here just before, like pouring down. Now it's sunny. I can see the sun come through my curtains. Because I have my curtains closed because my curtains are like my door. My TV screen that I work on faces the east, and so the sun shines through. So I always have the curtains closed, but I can see it's bright outside. So have an amazing day. Have an awesome day. All the best. We'll catch you in the next one. And if you don't see me anywhere else, you might see me in the chat, in your in your live streams. And like I said, let me just get this Fatal J stream from yesterday, which I think would be really cool if you guys are into, hearing a different voice on where is it? About the recent. No, it's not that. It's a JAY. Yes, yeah. Right. Let me just get this link so you guys can check out the Dark Council from yesterday, because that was really good. I really thought it was good. It's a 2-hour stream, and I was in the chat. It was a really good chat. A lot of good discussions, and also, yeah, Fatal J and his team were really, his Dark Council live stream with the panels did a really good job. And just in the discussion was really good about pop culture and stuff. So thank you guys. Ka kite ano. We'll catch you on the next one. Now I got to look forward to a long tutorial, a teaching live stream. Not live stream interview. I got to do. I'm the one who's learning, so I'm getting taught. All right, guys, have a good one. I got to get back to my real life.
Nope. Can't stay here anymore. I gotta get back. I think this was the spot. Oh Lord, I beseech thee, please return me to my old life. I swear I'll do anything. Like, literally anything. And I won't bother you again, so pretty please bring me back to life.